coming on to Squeezing the Plums, man. And
You're welcome.
pretty excited to have you on because I've had some awesome conversations and I see the work that you've done in your space, and I'm excited to share a conversation with you around a little bit around your upbringing and what you've gone through, because that's pretty pivotal in terms of the person that you are today, and also some of the methods and the teachings you're helping other people with. And finally, like, dude, you ran a 9-figure business. Yeah?
8-figure.
8-figure business. Sorry, 8-figure
It
business.
was technically a multi-7-figure business
Yeah.
that did over 8 figures.
8 figures. Like, what the fuck? And I haven't spoken to anyone that's done that before. And I think although your transformation has changed from running that to now where you are, I think there's so many aspects of your life that I can't wait to delve into, because there'll be people on the other end that are going to take away little gold nuggets along the way from that. But firstly, before we start, I have a question that I ask most of my guests before they come on.
Okay.
And that is, let's say tomorrow there's a click of the fingers and you, Ryan, were one of the last people on the planet and there was 1% of the population left. And they said, Ryan, you are the guy that we want to be able to stand up and talk about a topic of conversation that you feel strongly about, that you could think that would be valuable to the other people listening. What would that topic be, and what do you feel comfortable talking about as your level of expertise?
So what's the context of the 1% of the population left?
The context is
like
that
I'm spreading a narrative that's going to support the new world?
Yep. Or a narrative, or like a fundamental piece of knowledge that you have and that you think is valuable that would support.
I've got lots of pieces that I share that I feel are super important to me. I'd say that my perception on the meaning of life, which is that I perceive fulfillment as a top priority. Someone being able to make that what they set as their intention when they get up in the morning and make decisions about their career and relationship choices. That fulfillment is the purpose of life.
Do you think that at this current point in time that there are people out there that are really struggling to find fulfillment, like in terms of, you know, they know what they need to do, but like, do you find that they're struggling just to like get it? Is it like something that you can just obtain, or is it? It's such an interesting topic.
Yeah, it is. And I the way that I see fulfillment is the quality of our present moment experience, and what is required for someone to be in a state of fulfillment changes moment to moment. But it's about alignment for someone to be making a decision in a moment to do what their heart desires for them to do. And the reason that is rare, because your question was, is it hard to obtain? It's not that people know that that's what they want and they struggle to obtain it. It's that most people are stuck in a bit of a busyness cycle of stress. And so they're reacting to an overstimulated nervous system, which is the opposite of free will. They're reacting to their subconscious programming, stresses in the environment, and their whole perception of life is geared by fear. And so the way that I see fulfillment is when someone has altitude in a moment above that stress response, and therefore has free will to choose what their alignment is in that moment, to create presence and stay in what their heart's calling them to do in that moment.
There was a great guest that I had on a couple episodes prior to you that spoke about, to be able to have vitality was his concept, right?
Cool.
And that vitality is, you know, that capacity to be able to get up with purpose and energy to enjoy each and every single moment, not too dissimilar to being able to be fulfilled in the moments that arise within your day-to-day life. And one of the things he stated was, step one was to clean your surroundings and to be able to provide the capacity for you to actually properly listen to yourself. Otherwise you can't get, as you quote, the altitude to look at yourself and build the awareness.
Sure.
So in terms of cleaning yourself or creating a quality environment for yourself, what are some of the things that people can start to do based off your experience on being able to create altitude and look within that could help them take that very first step?
So firstly, in response to what that guest said with, step one is clean your environment. I'm a bit of a, I feel that most of the personal development space, and when you go through Instagram and you're looking at inspirational thought leaders that are spreading wisdom, most of the time people get psyched about absolute ideas. So someone's like, what do I do? And well, step one is clean your environment. Or step one is, you should be cold exposure therapy, or you should always be leaning into the fear. And that's your compass. And I disagree on just the idea that there's a right way, which is a bit of an argumentative kind of perspective, but I feel it's so important because it robs people of their free will to discern what's needed for them in a moment. So for some people, sleeping in and just being okay with a messy house, from my perspective, is what's needed if they know that that is their alignment. For some people, it's getting up and having a little season in their life where it's my routine is dialed in and I get up every morning and I start with a cold shower, then I watch the sunrise and then I do my meditation practice. But I disagree with the idea of trying to lock in a right way to do things, because what it does is people outsource their power to people that they're watching, and then they'll be scrolling through their news feed and David Goggins will pop up and they'll be like, oh, motivation, go to the pain, discipline, get it done, push harder. And people are like, oh, I'm not pushing hard enough. And then they like go for a run and then they're like, I need to be pushing harder. And then 4 days later, they're feeling a little bit burnt out. And then they scroll through their feed and Eckhart Tolle pops up. And then they're like, oh, it's about the present. It's about being able to enjoy the moment. Oh, wow, that's powerful. I've been doing it wrong. I've been trying to go too fast. And then they pendulum swing. Oh, now Eckhart Tolle, that's the guy. Whereas I feel like you're the guy. I'm the guy. We're the guy. We're the person that is most empowered to choose what is needed for us in a moment, which could be anything. And the word for that is discernment. And it's a rare lost quality in this modern day setting that I really want people to feel that they can claim and own that with their own heart's awareness.
And so I guess discernment is sort of like, it's not judgment and it's not knowing. It's sort of like would you say it's like a calculated understanding based off who you are that you can then make the best decision for yourself? Would that be what that is?
It was a beautiful way that you put the two pendulums and then kind of found that middle ground. I'd say it's definitely a middle ground, but it's whatever the person in the moment decides is needed for them. And I feel because there are so many canned rules that we store in our mind around shoulds from our parents and from society, or from even, I went to a seminar and they say it should be like this. So that's another list of shoulds. Now I learn about cold exposure. If I don't have a cold shower, I feel crap. I should be meditating twice a day. And the mind's just pulling in all these powerful ways of approaching life and using them as self-punishment tools. So the way to find that discernment is, I'm here in the moment. I've got some capacity to have awareness. That's the prerequisite is I have awareness. Because if I don't have awareness, then I'm just reacting. If someone's scrolling, they're in what I call head hypnosis, or in a trance. They're scrolling. If I'm scrolling, often it's been 10, 15 minutes and I haven't even noticed that the time's gone by, or I'm in the fridge, or I'm on Uber Eats. These aren't things that I've been doing recently, but those kind of things. Or I'm just working busyness and I don't even know where I am. I've lost the capacity because I've lost connection to awareness to even have the free will to discern what's right for me.
So then, the questions that I tend to ask is how, right? Yeah. Now, based off the philosophy that I'm hearing from you, how may not be even the right question.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean?
It can be, yeah.
Based off what you're saying. So what is the right question to then ask someone, So because if I'm wanting to gain or extract an element of your knowledge and your understanding to have betterment in my life, there's got to be a translation of communication where I can pick up what you're putting down, right? And most of us, we get told about methodology, right? Sure. So we learn about methodology in order for us to be able to make change that we want to make that we don't know how to do ourselves.
Yeah.
So if there's a person that wants to make change that don't know how to do themselves, and they have the discernment to know that they need to make the change, and they have the discernment to know that they're not capable at this current point of making the right informative decisions, is asking the question how they go about that the right question to ask? And if so,
can you stipulate what's their situation?
So their situation is they've reached a point in their life where they go, I am meant for more, right? And you see this all the time. I'm doing my job. I have my friends. I'm got maybe a partner, maybe I don't.
Yeah.
But that dream, that ambition, that sort of fell by the wayside is starting to creep back up.
Beautiful.
And everything around my life is so set in its ways that it's almost too hard to get to. And if I keep doing the same thing, I might be left with that curiosity of regret. So the question would then be, is there a how, or is that the wrong question to ask?
It could be the wrong question to ask depending on the person's state of consciousness.
Right.
So the way that I perceive life is that, very simply, we can be in our head, which is the part of our consciousness, which in the brain is the amygdala, the fear center of the mind. It looks through the lens of life and says, how do I not die? So it's very reactive, dysregulated, stressed, fear-based. And then we have this other aspect of our consciousness, which I just called the heart. And the heart is the part of us that feels completely safe. And then from that place, and it's present. And its intention in life is fulfillment. It wants to be able to grow in life. It wants to be able to love in life. It wants to be able to lap up the unique experience that it's having. Prerequisite for that space is there's enough awareness to be able to create distance from that stress response. Like if we're in a stress response in an argument with our partner, there's no awareness there. We've gone into fight or flight. We're defending our stance because we're scared. Yeah. And so if somebody, and most people in the world, in modern Western world, there's in the personal development landscape, there's a little bit of a sneaky blind spot for a lot of people, which is that they have their dream. But again, like I said earlier, they sometimes use the dream as a self-punishment tool, right?
Run me through that.
Yeah. So this is what the purpose of pre-framing the head and the heart is. If someone's like, I'm in a job and I know I'm meant for more and it's creeping back in, I've got this dream, I want to create it, I want to make it happen. If someone is feeling that where they are is not perfect, they're not seeing their situation through the eyes of God, the eyes of the universe, which is unconditionally loving. And so I would say if they're feeling, I should be doing better and I should be going after this dream, and there's fear there, there's insecurity there, there's a little bit of self-judgment, I should be doing more. And so they're like, how do I do more? Then they go onto YouTube and they're like, how do I do more? And then Andrew Tate pops up and he's like, you need discipline. You need to get your stuff together. You need to be a man. And then there's all these shoulds that creep back in, and that person's insecurity, the lens that they're in, if they're in the state of consciousness of the head, the fear consciousness, is they're using their dream to feel bad about who they are. And so on the same token though, they could be like, well, I know that where I am is perfect. I know who I am is perfect, which is a very controversial perspective, but I believe it's a truth that where we are is perfect and God makes no mistakes. The universe makes no mistakes. It's controversial, but I really believe in my heart that it's true. That we can own and accept that foundation and then go, cool, where I am is perfect. It's fine to be in this job. And then they can maximize their experience of being in the job because they're not feeling that they're not enough in the job and they're only going to be enough when that dream happens. And so they're using the dream as an expectation that's probably projected from society in some way. Well, online, I heard Tony Robbins talk about you can do anything with your life. I'm just in some crappy job. I should do more. And then they're feeling not enough and they're going after the dream to try to be enough. And so if they're coming from that perspective and they're like, well, how? Then they start researching how. The baseline premise is they're in a fight or flight response, because then when they rock up at work, they feel guilty that they're still in their job. They get home from work and they're feeling pressure that they should hurry up and get out of the job. So they're not there for the moment of any of that experience. While they're at work, they're not grateful for their colleagues and the opportunity and the funding that they're getting from that. Then when they leave, they're feeling pressure and they're not giving themselves permission to rest if that's what's needed and enjoy time with their friends. And then they listen to a video and they see all these they see me, Ryan did $10 million in his coaching business. Wow, I should be more like that. And in that moment, they're dysregulated. They're not present. They're not honoring their uniqueness in this lifetime and their beautiful path that's different to mine.
So then does
Right.
it require then someone have the capacity to sit with a thought and look back at their thought and go, why does that exist? Is that how they can step in the right direction?
Yeah.
Does that make
I
sense?
appreciate your how questions and whatnot, and they're really valuable for the chat because we're getting to dig into some really important, inconvenient sometimes questions.
Yeah. And by the way, if the question isn't put in a way that serves the way that you would like to answer, you can reposition the question, because I want this to be a dialogue that's challenging for both of us.
I'm loving this.
So I'm all
I'm
all for it.
Yeah.
So and the reason why I say that question is because, well, let's say hypothetically,
Yeah.
What you've said is you believe that in God and the universe, you are where you are, and that is the most fulfilling place that you can be right now.
Yeah,
Is
it's
that-
the only place
it's
we
the
can
only-
be right now. So
Right.
we may as well extract the fullness from it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess with that philosophy in mind and your truth in mind, if someone looks at their right now and their right now is, it's just they can't compute in their logical mind what's happening. So they're running off a fear response. How do they get connected to their heart? And is how they get connected to their heart?
It's
a
discernible.
it's like, because it's one of
gi-
those things where you just sometimes need momentum in the right step, right?
Depends what your intention of life is. And that's where it comes back to that thing of, I see fulfillment as the purpose of life. But a lot of the people see this made up idea of having a really cool scoreboard at the end of their life as the intention. So it's like, what's on my CV of my achievements in life? And that's what most people just have as an unconscious inbuilt metric of whether they're doing well in life. So if we use me, for example, in my story, I was 25 with a good looking partner, living in a 4-story designer house, making multi-millions of dollars a year, giving over $100,000 to charity, traveling the world, running retreats, having a supercar, all this cool stuff. Now society looks at that and they go, huh. And I'm kind, by the way, as well. I care about people and I'm really nice. And you could look at that and go, wow, that's great. People celebrate that. People are like, oh, he's doing really well. My family would be like, oh, yeah, Ryan's on the right track. The right track. But I was driving the business growth desperately from a fear that I wasn't doing good enough. So during the process, even though I created what everyone's looking at me, oh, he's okay. And, oh, he's being nice. That's good, right? But I'm being nice because I'm scared of getting rejected from people. So even if someone says, how you doing today? If I'm feeling like crap, I don't say that. I say, no, I'm going really well, thanks. How are you? I'm feeling like crap and I can't be authentic because I'm scared. So I'm a achievement-driven pleaser that society just loves both of those things about me. But inside, I'm lonely, depressed, anxious, and suffering at the peak of my success, at the peak of my kindness. Because the kindness was based on fear. I wasn't being authentic. If I was like, hey, how you going today? I'm actually coming from a place of fear, right?
So I'd love to then illustrate your journey, because
Yeah.
maybe instead of me asking the question,
These are all really helpful questions.
it's more so, let's then use your journey as a way for someone to be able to picture what it is that you did. Not saying that they need to follow the same way that you did it, but in order to see real life transformation, because effectively that's what you've done for yourself, I'm presuming.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? If that is something that you look at the past and you go, wow, I've looked back at that now and I go, there's a transformation that's occurred within me that I feel really aligned. I'd love to know how that came about.
Yeah. Thanks for asking. And I'm loving these questions. I feel the duty to be able to take some of the commonly misunderstood opinions of how people live their life for the purpose of helping people ditch the automatic insecurities and fears and shames that drive most people's growth. And so for me, to answer your question and give you some of what you've been looking for, some how stuff, is meditation. Meditation. So I was in this business, 100 hours a week I would work. So he's got a great work ethic. Had adrenal fatigue behind the scenes, but I didn't know. I had migraines every day for a year as well.
Yeah.
Normalized it, didn't even think much about it, didn't have the space to think much about it. And working 100 hours a week, growing this business, relationship was breaking down behind the scenes. And I couldn't see most things because anything that was inconvenient to my mega attachments, which was always like, how do I take what I'm doing and make it way bigger? That was my necessity. It wasn't just a nicety like, oh, it'd be cool to grow this. It's like, I have to use every ounce of my potential because I don't want to get on my deathbed and have regrets. And so that was my perspective and approach to life until I started meditating. And what meditation does is, in a way, it's potent space. It's potent space. When someone's busy and society normalizes crazy busyness and unhealthy lifestyle, nutrition, sleep, I know you're massively aware of this and behind this as well. So if someone's really, really busy, let's use the stereotype of a dad in a Hollywood movie that misses his daughter's dance recital because he was on some business call and he forgot about it. He didn't have the capacity to see it because he didn't have much space in his mind because he's so reactive and busy. But when we meditate or take space, then the things that are inside there and what's actually happening, our intuitive perception and our awareness, in that potent space, we see things. We become hyper aware of what's going on in our environment. So I'd just be bored of gate, driving growth in the workplace. I didn't notice if someone was coming in feeling a little bit low for 3 weeks in a row and then all of a sudden they quit because they're under too much pressure. I wouldn't see that. I'd just be looking at the numbers in the spreadsheet when we go into our accountability meetings and just raising the standards because I didn't have much perception. So my transformation was seeing the actual fragility that was under the mask of high performer, high achiever, that was actually deeply insecure.
I've listened to you talk about the idea of you being a superhuman. Yeah. And that that attachment to wanting to achieve that thought process. Would that be fair to say at some point in time you thought like that?
Yeah, I still do sometimes. So what I assume you're referencing is when I talk about toxic shame. Yeah. Shame is a feeling of embarrassment. So if we're younger and we take a shit and we throw it at the wall and mum's like, whoa, that is not okay. That's healthy shaming.
Yeah.
That's like, don't do that. Right?
Please do not do that.
But if someone gets, and taking a little bit of a pivot into a serious topic, if someone's sexually abused as a kid and they can't fathom it, the internalization of that is, there must be something deeply wrong with me. So instead of throwing crap at the wall is bad behavior and I should feel embarrassed for doing that, it's, I am someone that inherently has learnt that there's something wrong with me as a baseline. So I feel, just as I'm walking through life, less than human if I've got toxic shame. Yeah. I feel less than human. So I'm in all these interactions. I'm assuming that I don't deserve to be successful. I'm assuming that these friends, they probably don't like me. And if I get in this relationship, they're probably going to be interested in other people. Maybe I'm jealous a lot, whatever. There's lots of different symptoms. But if someone's inherently feeling less than human because they had a real tough upbringing, they either had their feelings constantly shunned or were constantly nitpicked and micromanaged by disconnected parents, they can start to feel that I am literally less than human as a baseline. They're not consciously thinking that, but it's a feeling of shame, toxic shame. And if someone's feeling inherently less than human, the only way to escape the pain of that is if I'm less than human, even though they're actually just human, but they're feeling less than human, then instead of just trying to be a healthy version of themselves that's like doing what they love and having a great crack, the pain causes them to go, well, in order to be worthy of basic things like love and attention and presence and friends and health, I have to be superhuman. That's the only way to escape the deep misbelief that I'm actually less than human, is to try to be superhuman. Or if the toxic shame was created from some kind of intense trauma, like being beaten as a kid or hardcore verbal abuse and emotional abuse or sexual abuse, then it gets inherited by the person that was abused and they become the abuser, because it's the only way that they can escape that feeling of toxic shame, which is painful and disgusting. And how do I get out of this? The only way to get out of it is, and alleviate that, is an involuntary repeating of that really unhealthy behavior.
That's something that's fascinated me for a while, because I've never been able to understand it to the extent in which you just spoke about it then. So you do see sometimes people fall into that, like they've had, actually, you know what? This is an interesting topic because, all right, let's say this. I've never really spoken about this. Fuck. All right. So my mum had an arranged marriage, right? And growing up, like she was an elite athlete and she was only 15 or 16 when she got married and she wanted to play professional sport. She was in India. She's the most amazing woman. Love her. But she got married. Probably, I would say, not because she wanted to, because it was arranged, right?
Sure.
My dad's batting. He did really well. Good on him. He was a lucky man, right? But then I look at it 15 years down the track and, you know, the cultural idea of me having to marry within the same cultural dynamic was probably more enforced by my mum, even though that was something where he didn't really align to growing up. And it's almost like, fuck, like if you didn't want that when you were at that age, but you had it anyways in terms of the marriage, why would you put that value onto me? Is that the same sort of thing?
It's exactly the same thing. And if we just turn up that phenomena to the behavior of abuse, and then why would someone that's biggest pain in their entire reality in their whole life being abused in a certain way, why would they do the same thing to someone else? It makes no logical sense. And I feel like it's such an important topic because the political correctness around this topic in society is there is a lack of collective vulnerability in the world. And so people, because they feel shame for their mess in life, everyone's just can't wait to point the finger. So if someone abuses someone, they're like, this person, they're an abuser. You know, this person's, and it's not that they don't deserve consequences and they don't have to be managed or sentenced to some kind of conviction, but there's a lack of collective understanding of the root of it, that hurt people hurt people. So then we have all these high and mighty political correct people that are, I'm just a perfect citizen and I don't do any wrong. And what happens in their relationship, which is probably full of projection and toxic behavior, but we show that everything's going great with us, but then we probably get divorced a few years later, or the husband's watching porn all the time and the woman's like fantasizing about being with other men. We need to be able to be honest about our toxicity and our unhealthy behavior so that as a society, we can actually have some compassion for all of our stuff, because none of it's a conscious choice. No human beings out there going, I want to hurt other people. That's what I want to do. You know, my family's full of this kind of abuse. And in my relationship with my partner, I can be manipulative, controlling, angry, and I love my partner to death. And I do the exact things to my partner when I lose awareness that my dad did to me. And just hate that my dad did that to me. And here I am doing the exact same thing. Yeah. Of which I've had to learn to have deep compassion for it and love for myself with that. And that's the baseline premise that's needed, a baseline requirement that's needed for me to actually not do it anymore.
Mm.
It's to love myself with it and love him with it. And that's the only way that it heals and it stops.
It's sort of like they talk about shadow forms of yourself, right?
Yeah.
And this sort of seems like what you would define as shadow work. Would that be fair?
Yeah. Shadow work's forming awareness over any of our patterns that are in the dark.
Right.
Yeah.
And
so this could be put in that category, but there's other things that could be shadow work too.
sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
It just that's the first thing that came to me.
Sure.
It's a part of ourselves that we don't like to look at that is evidently a part of ourselves
Yeah.
that we have to learn to love.
Yeah.
And so, as we grow up there, we sometimes suppress these parts of ourselves and
Yeah.
forget they even exist.
Mm.
But because we don't appreciate that that's part of who we are at this point in time, we
Mm.
don't love that version of ourselves.
Yeah.
It can manifest in a really bad way.
Yeah.
And so in your upbringing, you've mentioned this a couple of times now, so I'd love to get into it.
Oh.
So, what are probably the key one or two toxic things that were projected onto you? And you kind of answered in the last question, but what are the couple of things that were projected onto you that you are now aware of? And at what point in your life did you become aware of it?
So I'm just going to say the biggest one is being like a hyper controller. Like my dad growing up was super like a military sergeant, but he was also a lazy drug dealer. But the way that he treated me was micromanage everything, just pointing at every single little thing. If I was eating my food and the spoon touches my teeth, then it's just both fists come slamming down on the table, or like real loud jarring, like, what the fuck? It's just like, or if my mum's driving the car and my dad's in the car, it's like, indicate, change here, don't do this. It's the whole time. And so it was like, I'm in control. I'm going to be the one that's running your life, right? And I find myself in my internal consciousness projecting so much. I feel so much anxiety in my body in relationship, fear of intimacy, which has been inherited from my dad. He inherited it from his dad. And I'm scared of intimacy, not consciously. I could give you a hug and we could go real deep and eye gaze for half an hour. Fine, fine with me. But if we went into an intimate relationship, it wouldn't be okay for me, because then I could get hurt like I got hurt by the people I trusted most when I was younger. So I have this anxiety in my body, and the way I try to alleviate that pain is by forming these focus points on my partner, judgments. I will start looking at her body and start judging her body, or I'll look at, we're at a social gathering and she's not being that social. And then in my head, instead of just enjoying a social gathering, I'm watching her and I'm thinking, is she even like good at socializing? Is she just like some boring person? And inside I'm having all these things, which I don't want to feel that way about anyone, but it's the same pattern that my dad gave to me. And I just pay it on. Yeah. So to answer the last part of the question of when did I become aware of it? It was only through meditation. My whole perspective before meditation with my relationship patterns is I'd always attract someone that I could rescue. And then I would, in that dynamic, be the one that's feeling all superior and I'm so successful and I'm doing all this stuff, and they would have mental health problems and struggling in their life. Or I would create the struggle for them, which it's the last thing I want to say, right?
Yeah.
But I'm being honest here. And I would always leave a relationship thinking, yeah, good on me for leaving that relationship. I knew I was settling and I'd move on. And I'm being really direct. It wasn't like that. I loved and cared about them a lot, but just to be hyper focused on the pattern. And then when I started meditating, I'd actually had a little bit of a glitch in my trance of life to go, hang on a second. the same things happen multiple times. What's my contribution to this? What's actually happening here? And only through that self-awareness, that taking a pause to have that spaciousness in my mind, could I see, I'm repeating the pattern. Instead of just saying, where are all the good quality women? Where are all the conscious men? These things that get thrown around. It's like, why am I not in a relationship, in a healthy relationship that's open-hearted and loving and safe?
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's pretty powerful, man, because like squeezing the plums and why it exists is that there are a lot of people that don't know how to have conversations with their friends or with people that they know. And, for you to be able to have a conversation with me about something that is innately not necessarily comfortable to bring up is really valuable. I want to say thank you for that, because there will be people that will listen to that specific phrase and will go, shit, I probably should meditate. and they can use their discernment, and whether they choose to do that or not, whether through a different way, right? That was your way, was to meditate and to create space for your mind to go, that's my pattern. And that's contributing to potentially why I'm attracting the certain type of partner, or I am leaving a relationship trying to maybe uphold my ego to say that, well, I did the right thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting, because not many blokes have that capacity to look inwards like you've just done there. So moving from that point now to your coaching and how you help people, because effectively you're now sitting with groups, individuals, big organizations, all those types of different dynamics, helping spread a message that you hold dear. So what is it that you talk about and teach and help people with so that they can start to make positive changes in their life? Or maybe that's not even the right way to think about it. They've already got the positivity in their life,
Sure.
like based on what you said, but to be aware of where they're at in their life.
Yeah. It's a situation that if people let's say someone's in a job, all their friends are entrepreneurs and they desperately want to become an entrepreneur, and they don't have a lot of, that's just what they want. They're massively attached to that, and they're going to do everything. So they'd easily pay to go to a one-day seminar learning about how AI is going to help them with their marketing. But going to a meditation thing's just, why would I waste my time with that stuff? If someone's in that situation, then I can't help them, essentially. And just love them. That's what I can do. I can love them. But the way that I see the natural flow of a soul's journey, a human's journey on the soul level as they go through their life, or if we're going to be a little bit saucy with this, across multiple lifetimes in some cases, is that people start their journey spawning from the great beyond, oneness, the universe. This is what I believe. And then they come into a human body to forget the fact that they are light and love. Yeah. And then they go on this journey of forgetting. If we look at the word forgetting, they are forgetting. They're about getting. They're trying to get things. They're attached to things. They want to make more money. They want to be more successful, and they want to have more fame. And they go on this journey. And what a lot of the time happens, and people can have different approaches to land at the same point, but eventually over time, let's just use actors as an example, Hollywood actors. Why do actors not have drug problems before they make it? They have drug problems once they've made it, but they don't usually have drug problems when they're trying to make it. And the reason why is because they're under the illusion that they're going to feel whole and it's going to be amazing when they get those attachments, when they finally make it and they beg, borrow, and steal, blood, sweat, and tears, going after role, getting rejected, and after 5 gruesome, challenging tears with all these sacrifices, they make it. And then people like you and I at certain stages in our life, and other people that love listening to podcasts like this, it's like, Jim Carrey, you made it. You're better than us now. And I look up to you because I want to be like you. when they get there, and that whole pursuit was based around trying to get to some destination that was going to make them feel good about where they are, unconsciously, obviously, then they hit what I call the intolerable pain of separation. Because they've come from oneness and togetherness, and they've been forgetting, more success, more driven, more separate. And they keep getting up, and they get to the thing that they've wanted the whole time. But they feel the exact same way. In fact, they feel worse because they were hinging on the idea that when they get there, it's going to be awesome. They get there and they feel worse. How do I know this? Because it happened to me, and I see it with a lot of I work with a lot of high-end people that are really competent, that have deep pain that they don't show the outside world, but it's there. And so they get to this point, and then they're like, holy crap, I feel terrible. And the pain of this is intolerable now. So they'll either just drown it out with drug abuse, they'll drown it out with alcohol, they'll drown it out with strippers, prostitutes, porn, buying things, and just short-term gratification to try to distract away from that pain that's always been there, fueling their forgetting journey. But then they hit this point where they're like, it's intolerable. I can't deal with it anymore. And often that point comes when they get everything and realize that they feel the same way. And when someone hits somewhere in that point is usually when I can support them on their journey. Because then if people, 100, 200 people told me, money's not going to make you happy, Ryan. And I was like, yeah, you go out with your low standards. No time for this crap. I'm going to keep actually driving, and you can be lazy over there. No time for your spiritual woo-woo nonsense. But only when I had it and realized how I felt, did I feel enough pain that I was willing to approach life differently. So what I help is when people are in that pain and their whole reality for their entire life has been centered in one way, and they have an identity crisis or a spiritual awakening, but just feel confused and overwhelmed, have no idea what to do with it. Then I step in and say, hey, you're going to feel like crap for a while, but if you actually want to get to the other side and you don't want to just leave the earth, here's how you do it.
Is it then this like is burning in my head now? Should we have goals and dreams then?
We do have goals and dreams. Yeah. And and that's, everyone has goals and dreams, and they're beautiful. It's just what aspect of the goal is a head attachment and what aspect of the goal is a heart desire, right? So every situation, every area of life, every goal, every aspect of someone's life is going to have both. So I'm on this podcast right now in this moment. I've still got a fear consciousness. My amygdala hasn't been like surgically removed and I'm enlightened. I'm in my head, I'm in fear. My prefrontal cortex is also there when I'm connected to awareness, intuition, creative thinking, bliss, joy, whatever. And I'm here on this podcast. Now, if I had something really dysregulating happen, or you happen to ask me a question that I feel really insecure about, which is possible, not probable, but it could happen. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh crap. And I start to feel really stressed and lose my awareness, lose connection to my heart. And I go into my head. My head attachments, which exist in my consciousness, will probably come out. Now, my head attachments on this podcast are sounding smart, hoping people like me, hoping you like me. People listen to this and they want to follow me so that I can build more success and become more recognizable, so I feel better about who I am. It's my head attachments. And they presuppose lack. They presuppose emptiness. Whereas in the same token, my heart's desires, which is what brings the passion into this, is I'm really for helping people prioritize enough love for themselves that they can do what's going to make their heart fulfilled and not stay in that trance of following fear. I'm really passionate about that service. It's my heart desire. My heart desire is to have an awesome connection with you, bro, and be like, yeah, sweet, and a new potential friend. And I can just enjoy this time with you. And I've got a heart desire for presence in this interview. I don't think there's anywhere in the entire world that I could be that would have more opportunity for fulfillment in my whole life than right here, right now with you. I honestly don't believe that to be true. I don't think I'm on stage being interviewed by Tony Robbins that is going to have more potential for fulfillment, because I'm same body, same person here with you. I can extract just as much presence and fullness and from that situation. So they're my heart's desires. So if I feed my head attachments trying to sound smart and get it right and everyone likes me, it's going to awaken more and more of my fear consciousness. So most people, but if I'm connected to my heart, then I'm feeding that wholeness, that love, and it makes this whole dynamic really easy. Same thing with goals. If someone has a dream and a goal, what's inspiring that? Is it that they're desperately attached to it because they don't feel like they're enough unless they get it? Because if that's the thing that's inspiring that goal, I'm going to drop a quote that I created that is one that is straight fire. I'm going to toot my own horn for a little bit, but it's really true, which is the universe withholds what we're attached to in order to teach us to love ourselves without those things. So the universe will withhold, it'll block what we're attached to, what we're needy for, we're desperately need, in order to teach us to love ourselves without that thing. So if someone has a dream and they're like, I need to be successful, I need to be more like Jordan Peterson, I need to be more like this athlete. And they're like, because where I am is not enough. The universe is just going to block it because the universe wants them to feel whole so that they can learn to love themselves without it.
Fuck, bro. Okay, so I've got to give you another scenario. So growing up, our family didn't have a great deal of money, right? So money, we know for a lot of people is a big blocker. They have the wrong value system around it, let's say hypothetically. Sure. So for me, it was that. And then it was always about like, my dad drove cabs, he worked really hard, and it was always like money doesn't grow on trees. And then you learn about your relationship with money and all that type of stuff. Yeah. And I've always attracted enough money to get through, right? But not enough to feel abundant. Well, I've got truckloads of it. Sure. And it's so funny, like I have never made more money, but never been almost more broke. Because what ends up happening is I decided my business went really well with podiatry, right? But then something happened from a family perspective and now I'm the caretaker.
Yeah.
Right? And so I'm like, fuck, I still don't have enough.
Sure.
And so that pattern has happened my entire life. And what you were saying before kind of resonated me with that because I'm like, I found a way to travel the world when I was 20. I made enough money. Yeah. I come back pretty, okay. I then start my business, make some money. I can move out of home, but never really got enough to do not do whatever I wanted to do, but achieve that goal or dream of that financial security. And every time that I've grown financially, there's been another bigger hurdle that's sort of come along the way. And so that sort of relates almost a little bit to what you said about like the universe is sort of, putting little blockers in the way there until you kind of get into here and get whole. Yeah. So
that's an epic vulnerability, might I add. And I'm just so grateful that I'm talking to you right now and you're sharing that vulnerability because that makes me feel like what we're sharing is going to be meaningful for the viewers and listeners at a deeper level, thanks to you. And most people don't have the courage to acknowledge their attachment to something like that. Even though, of course, we'd want to have lots of money if everyone in society is saying you're better if you're that way. But if I reference my own journey, which might be helpful for you because I'm someone that's had a lot of money, but been different relationships over time, and I've kind of like cracked the code for this because of my awareness of this point, which is I made lots of money in my business. I was always making lots of money, but I'd always spend a crap ton of money, right? Because I never cared about the money, but I wanted to feel successful and to look successful. So I'd waste so much money. And I really cared about that. Super insecure about people knowing how much money I had and how well I was doing. Now, because I have a genuine sense of wholeness in myself, not like I'm walking around and I'm perfect, but compared to when I was back then, I honestly don't value that. I don't care. I don't care if my friends have lots of money, not much. It just doesn't have any care for me now. But I make and save way more money now, making probably $200,000-300,000 a year in my little boutique coaching business compared when I was making $5 million a year in my other business. I save and make more money because I spend way less. I live off like probably 40 grand a year. I don't need to buy super expensive clothes. My car's like a Volkswagen Polo that I got secondhand. It's like 9 grand and I love it. Yeah. Whereas I used to have a C63 AMG and want everyone to know about it and drive all loud and look how good I am. Yeah. Just blowing money, wasting petrol. I used to go out and eat at these fancy places all the time, just blowing money. I don't care what I eat. If I go out, in fact, when you and I met, I didn't eat that night.
That's true.
I didn't eat that night. Why? Because I don't want to spend the money on food that I consider to not even be healthy. I'm literally, not to brag about it because I don't even think it's that big of a deal, but I'm financially set. Like my investments make me more money than I spend with my expenses. So I don't have to work at all.
Is there anything?
And so I'm in that position where I can spend on things, but I'm pretty happy to say, yeah, I don't want to eat tonight because I don't want to spend the money at this restaurant.
Is there anything wrong with having the ambition of having a nice car? So let's say you grow up and you hop in someone else's nice car and you go, fuck, that'd be pretty cool to have one of my own those days because you felt cool. You're in the car, right? Like, is there anything wrong with that?
Good reframe.
But is it something that is a worthy goal off the basis of the fact that you're attached to it from a certain perspective?
The only problem is for the person, because I don't care if someone has a nice car and they're like, you want to go for a spin? I'll be like, hell yeah, let's jump in. You want me to drive? Let's rip it. So it's not like I'm like, nice cars are bad. It's just for the person that holds that attachment is holding, if they're attached. If they're not attached, there's no problem for that person. If that person is attached, it's presupposing that they need it to feel good. If they didn't need it, then they're not attached. So if someone needs something to feel good, how they're feeling right now without it is less than what they would feel hypothetically with it. So they're suffering a feeling of inadequacy, even if it's a small level, while they hold that attachment.
So how do you know if you're feeling at the peak level of goodness, right? What feedback do you get from yourself? Because like, I think I feel pretty fucking good most of the time.
That's awesome.
I think that's awesome, yeah. Right? Like, it's cool. Like, yeah. I love these podcasts. I love being able to chat. Yeah. I feel alive when I'm here. I feel passionate and feel thriving. I said on a separate podcast the other day, I drive a Honda Civic. I'd love to change that one day. Okay, all right, cool. It's baby blue. It's my mate's mum's car. Right?
Epic. I love that.
And I'm like, all right, but like for me, it's like I would love to be able to achieve that. Right? That's my like thing of just saying, not that I feel any better or worse for having it. It's kind of just like a recognition for a bit of hard work. And maybe.
That's up to you to know and decide. And I'm not going to judge you either way. I just know that if there's attachment there, you will be feeling, especially in the moments that relate to that.
Yeah.
So if there's moments where you go to somewhere and you meet someone that has, like, you might pedestal me in a subtle way if you heard that I had a nicer car. So in that moment, when you hear I've got a nicer car, or you see someone that's doing slightly better and you unconsciously put them above you and you feel less, cool. That moment, they're suffering.
Right. That's cool. Yeah. That's really clear, valuable. Right? That's like a massive click point for me because it's like, I don't think, like, one of my best mates got a brand new Audi R5. Thing's a fucking beast. Yeah.
Yeah, they're gnarly.
Beast. Now, I don't think I put him on a pedestal, which is kind of a good thing based off that reference, but I was super happy for him because he's a mad dog and I love him.
Sure.
Right. But I also look at the car and go, that'd be a pretty cool car to have.
That sounds pretty healthy.
So that would be what you define as pretty healthy, right?
I would. I if I'm just being honest,
yeah,
I feel that there is some level of subtle attachment in there.
Yeah.
But it's not a win or lose thing. And it doesn't even matter if it's right or wrong. It's just for you to sit with and it'll become clearer over time. But for anyone that's listening, so the difference between, if you've got a goal, and is it okay to have dreams and goals was the question. If you've got a goal and there's attachments, then what is being prioritized is the obtaining of something in the future. if you're connected to your heart, then what you want from that goal is going to be different when you're connected to the heart. So me being here with you again, it's presence, connection, service. And that all feels so much love in my presence when I connect to that. If I was here trying to sound smart and get it right, I'd just be feeling like taxed and stressed and overwhelmed and whatnot. So if someone has a goal, the way that I can pretty easily define the difference between the head and the heart's idea is that the heart will want wholesome things from that. If what your desire, so let's say with me in business, why do I want to be in business? Because I believe the purpose of life is fulfillment. So the only reason I want to do anything is if I feel it's going to make my life more enriching, wholesome, rewarding, meaningful, connected, present. You get me? Creative. Yeah. If I've got a goal, let's say it's to start a successful business. If I'm attached to that business and I'm trying to make that business work, then I'm not, or I don't even know why I'm doing it. So it's like, I need this business to be successful. I would only do a business myself if I feel like it's going to amplify the quality of my life. So coming here today to do this interview, I thought my life is going to be even more enriching because I'm going to get to come here and serve and talk and connect and be present in this chat. But a lot of people just try to create things because they're attached to it. And therefore they rob themselves of the ability to get what they actually want from that business. So like if we think about why someone would actually want to be in business, maybe they want to they've got goals, like things that excite them, and they want to bring that out. So someone wants to start a skateboard store and they just love skateboards, or they want to be an artist and they just love painting. So when they're painting, they feel, oh yeah, it's my creativity, it's my flow. Maybe they want to start a business because their job doesn't give them the creative expression. So I'm going to start my own business, I'm going to get the creative expression. Or they love connecting to people. I want to do this so I can connect to people. Now, when you see most people at the start of their business, there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of attachment, there's a lot of dysregulation, there's a lot of overwhelm, because they're just desperately trying to make it work and they're terrified that people are going to judge them if it fails and what if they look stupid. So they're not enjoying the connection with people on the sales calls. They're not feeling like a real, oh yeah, I get to make a logo, this is fun. It's like, is that the best logo? Because if the logo is not good, what if the business doesn't get clients and I look stupid? So in summary, if someone's attached to something, they're disconnected from the wholesome aspects of it, right? Now, I was traveling around the world when I ran my previous business, in Monte Carlo, putting on a retreat, in Switzerland, running a retreat, people traveling from Australia and the States to come meet me there. And it's objectively really cool, but I'm there trying to make sure I sound good, trying to make sure the clients re-sign so I can hit my goals, spending most of the free time there planning the next one, just not lapping it up. So would I rather be sitting on the street, just out there at the park, having an awesome chat with a friend, or would I rather be in Monte Carlo in front of 80 people, desperately stressed to try to make a bunch of sales? Business from the head, business from the heart. And if I was really there about service, connection, and creativity, well, it's pretty easy to access that. I can go live on my phone anytime, do a Facebook Live and give some value and really enjoy it. But people will be there like, I can't get any clients, nothing's going well, it's never going to work. And why are you doing it? Well, I want to serve. Well, send some nice text messages out. Call some friends and offer some advice. Like, do a Facebook Live, do a YouTube video. You're not actually in it to serve. You're actually in it to prove that you're good enough. And so the whole journey is suffering and stress while you're attached. But if you're already feeling whole and you're doing it because you think it's going to amplify your life, you don't care if it works or not. You just want to do what's going to be fulfilling for you.
Wow.
Yeah.
That last bit that you said, the feel that you're good enough, that hit me as well. Cause it's like, well, like, personally, it's like playing sport growing up. A lot of kids, not just myself, have the goal or the dream of playing on the big stage.
Yeah.
Right. It's a lot. Yeah. It's like, I want to line up in the G. I either want to come down and bolt thunderbolts or I want to kick a goal in the MCG,
Yeah.
right? And it's playing big.
Mm.
And to know that you're good enough to get there. Now, there's a lot of us that didn't end up quite making it for whatever reason. You can make, whatever the reason is
God's plan.
God's God get some Kanye fame, right? So that's happened, and then you go, well, can I shift that big goal or big dream or saying that you've achieved the best to something else? Might be for me doing a TED talk, or it might be being able to create something that has amazing traction and purpose and drive for people to be able to go, yeah, that's done well.
Sure.
And that can be something that's really hard because it's like you kind of want to know what it feels like to know whether you really missed out or not. Does that make sense?
I hear what you're saying. And I know that part of me that has the same thing, but it's not how I feel in my experience.
Yeah.
Because it was an illusion that life would be better if I made it that thing.
Yeah.
But I didn't see life about achievement. Remember, there's the scoreboard.
Mm.
And this is why this whole conversation at the start, new world, 1%. What do you want to spread the message of? That life's not about scoreboards. We're taught it is. So of course we're going to try to get on so we stay in cahoots with society and the school, and my parents are happy with my grades. But I see life, the purpose of life is fulfillment. And you know what? If someone actually prioritizes the quality of their experience in life above their attachment to results, in a lot of cases, they're going to get better results.
That's beautifully said. Beautifully said. And I normally give everyone and every guest now the opportunity, just because I like I've been asking a lot of the questioning. And so part of Squeezing the Plums is that I allow guests to ask me any question in return that they want to ask me, so that, the whole idea about it is being able to promote vulnerable and uncomfortable conversations, or things that maybe, put me on the spot that I haven't had time to prep for or think about. Because that's the whole point sometimes, is just lead from the heart, right? So if there is a question or something that you wanted to bring up with me, and you don't have to have a question.
Sure.
It's fine by me. Is there anything you would like to ask me in return?
Can I ask you 3 questions that are linked?
Yep. Let me have a sip of water. Yep. Yes.
So the first one, and I want you to be as direct and honest as possible. Sometimes we can have answers that are like kind of there, not fully there.
That's why I don't know whatever question you're going to ask. So
yeah, cool. What for you, if you're honest, is like the thing that you care about most in life?
I think there's 2 things that pop straight to my head. 1, my image to myself to say that I've done it.
Okay.
And 2, being able to support my family and know that I've been able to look after them.
Okay, cool. Thanks for those vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
It's nice to be over here on the, what's the plums?
Yeah. My plums are in your hands.
So
yeah.
Let's go with one of those.
Sure.
Which one would you say is more important?
The first thing that came to my head is the image of myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So what are the fears that exist for you in relation to that?
That I'll get to the end of my life and say to myself that I tried hard but never made it.
Thank you so much for that vulnerability on that piece. And if you think about this area of having an image that you desiring to be in contentment with your own sense of self, is that accurate to say?
Yeah, to say that not only did I try and, I had a goal, and I know we've sort of developed the conversation from that, but, that I had a goal, but that if I say something and I back myself and believe myself, I can achieve it. And there are things in my life that I have done that, but on a big level, let's say, hypothetically,
sure,
that I can look back and say that, hey, I demonstrated my capability to its fullest.
Okay. So I'm going to chunk this into the area of your life is your sense of self. And the attachment or the fear is I'm not going to live up to my potential. Yeah.
Yep.
So the attachment is living up to your potential. Sure. So if you go into your heart and you connect to the most wholesome aspects of what it means to have your own image in yourself, what are you really wanting in relation to the pursuit and the theme of cultivating your sense of self and living in alignment with who you can be and why you do what you do? Does that make sense?
No, I'm going to ask you that. I'm going to ask you to say that question again, bro.
Yeah.
So, because I want to give right answer. I want to give you the answer that is not manufactured. So if you could ask that again, that'd be great.
Yeah, no problem. It's not going to be the same question, but I'll be getting the same point across that I was trying to get across. So the area that you care most about is having a sense of self, like knowing that you lived in integrity with your own potential. Yeah.
Correct.
And the attachment is that you do something big and you know that you've given everything that you can and you achieved your potential. That's the attachment. In my philosophy of the world, that aspect of it is based in fear, right? That was what the question was. Sure. What's your biggest fear around this? So from my way of seeing the world, we have head and heart. That's the head, the head's view.
Yes.
The head's view is I need to wake up and am I giving my best today? Because if I don't, cumulative effect, I'm going to land at my deathbed and I'm going to know I didn't give everything. And that's going to be regret.
Yeah.
That's fear-based.
Yeah.
Right? From my perspective.
Yeah.
What does your heart actually desire for you in relation to the sense of self? What does your heart want you to feel in the way that you view yourself?
Oh, love. Like,
okay.
Yeah. It's like, so connected and like joyful, like
okay,
all the time would be like awesome.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So your heart's desire is not necessarily to get to the end and have given everything and been as big as possible. It's like your heart wants you to love yourself enough to give yourself permission to enjoy what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for asking those questions because, I forgot that this is even a podcast now. It's always felt like it's it's just a conversation, but these are the types of quality conversations that people don't get the opportunity to have with their friends, right? To spend an hour and a half in a room and just go, let's chat and let's compare our philosophies and ideas and ways of thinking.
Yeah.
And I'll be able to go back and you know what? Because the last hour and a bit has been a whirlwind. I get the fortune of being able to listen back to this conversation and go, right, what did I take from that? And then, meditate on it. If that is my discerning first step. But Ryan, I want to say thank you. And I'd love to give you the floor just for a little bit of time for people that have enjoyed our conversation and want to reach out to you. Sure. And, go, yeah, I want to work with Ryan or I want to listen to more of his content or see what he's about. How can they find you?
Yeah, I'd just say like my posts, love my posts, make me feel worthy about I'm joking.
No.
I'm joking. I have my life's work, which has been about 15 years of going deep into these topics of philosophy. I've spent close to $800,000 on my own journey of learning about life and coming from a place of a lot of deep insecurity. And I teach my whole life's work in a 3-day workshop called The Art of Fulfillment. And it sounds fluffy, the art of fulfillment. It's not like blood, sweat, and tears or give it all or courage unleashed or something. It's the art of fulfillment. But it is terrifying in experience because in order for someone to experience fulfillment, they need to be able to sit in fear. And that's why a lot of people don't go after what they want in life. If someone takes their goal away and they're like that attachment, it's scary to be like, I'm okay without that attachment. I'm going to do what I love, not what I'm attached to. Because that attachment is something that from the person's perspective is a requirement, right? So bottom line is, in my life's work workshop, The Art of Fulfillment, which the plug is come to The Art of Fulfillment. You can find out about it at ryanmagic.com. I teach about fear, deeply about fear. And there's a lot of things that people are afraid of that keep them trapped in fear consciousness. The fear of boredom. Every fear is the fear of death. So the fear of rejection that stops people launching their dreams or putting themselves out there, or walking up to a girl in the street, or depending on who's listening to this, whoever they're attracted to, and saying, I think you're super sexy. I want to come say hi. Because they're terrified of rejection. Because they think if I get rejected, I'll be ousted from the tribe in a tribal days, which our mind is wired for. And I'm going to get abandoned and die. So every fear is the fear of death. And The Art of Fulfillment is a workshop where I take people through the experience of sitting in that fear of death, understanding how their head reacts to being in a fear state, which usually is, if another one of the fears is fear of emotions, someone has emotions coming up, they emotionally eat, they'll binge eat, or they'll start overworking. They don't give themselves permission to rest. Fear of rejection, so they don't ask for what they want in the bedroom. So my whole life's work is underpinned by learning about fear and how that impacts our life. And if we understand that, then being able to manage that, living in fulfillment, going after our dreams, being of service, making money, having abundance, having an amazing, enriching relationship and awesome friendships and a super healthy body, that's just easy. I don't use discipline to eat well. I don't use discipline to work. I only work when I want to work. And because it's fully aligned, I cash in on it and I do super well. So come to the workshop. Would be love to have you. And you can find out about it at ryanmagic.com. And if anything that I said, you've got a follow-up question from, or you want to make comment to, or share some of your story with me, message me at @TheRyanMagic on Instagram. It's my handle, @TheRyanMagic.
Beautiful, brother. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
You can get it. Well done, mate. Thank you.